The scene opens in the Crystal Ballroom of the Belmont Mansion, an event space known for its grandeur. The evening is set for a charity gala aimed at raising funds for underprivileged children's education. The atmosphere is filled with the soft glow of chandeliers, making the room feel like it's dotted with stars. High-profile guests mingle, their laughter and the clinking of champagne glasses creating a backdrop of elegance and philanthropy. Tiffany Trump stands out among the attendees, not just because of her family name, but due to her serene demeanor. She wears an elegant emerald green gown, symbolizing her connection to hope and renewal. She's engaging in light conversation, her calm presence distinguishing her from the usual scrutiny she faces as a member of a controversial family. Her approachability and measured responses make her a beacon of calm in a potentially volatile environment. The mood at the gala was suddenly altered as Neil Parker made his entrance. Known across media circles for his relentless pursuit of provocative stories, his appearance at an event dedicated to charity was unexpected and somewhat ominous. Neil wasn't a stranger to controversy. He thrived in it, often at the expense of decorum or empathy. His presence was a calculated move. He'd chosen this night, surrounded by the glitz and goodwill of the gala, to launch his latest attack. He moved through the crowd with the air of someone who knew exactly what he was doing, eyes scanning for his target, Tiffany Trump. His approach was deliberate, his smile was more a smirk, and his reputation preceded him like a storm cloud on what was meant to be a clear night. With the subtlety of a predator, Neil Parker homed in on Tiffany, who was momentarily disengaged from her conversation. "Miss Trump," he called out, his voice slicing through the ambient noise of the gala. His tone was casual, yet there was an unmistakable sharpness to it, like the edge of a knife hidden in velvet. Tiffany's smile wavered for a split second, but her years in the public eye had taught her to mask her surprise. The room's chatter dimmed as heads turned, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Neil's presence was not for the charity. His aim was clear. He was here to provoke, to unsettle, and to capture a moment that would serve his narrative. Tiffany Trump, recognizing the ambush for what it was, chose diplomacy over confrontation. Her initial reaction was one of poise. She maintained eye contact with Neil Parker, her smile polite but measured. "Mr. Parker, what a surprise. I didn't realize you'd be covering tonight's event," she said, her voice clear and composed. She was trying to steer the narrative back to the gala's purpose, subtly reminding Neil that this was a night for charity, not controversy. She spoke of the Children's Education Fund, her tone suggesting that the evening should be a celebration of communal generosity rather than a stage for personal vendettas. Her polite defense was an attempt to maintain decorum, offering Neil a chance to retreat gracefully or at least to redirect his focus. Neil, however, was not one to be easily dissuaded. His smirk seemed to widen, a clear sign that he was not here for the charity but for the story. "Oh, I'm not here for the event," he retorted, his voice tinged with a mocking lightness. He then launched into a barrage of pointed questions, each one more loaded than the last. He inquired about the Trump family's political legacy, the controversies that had plagued their name, and how Tiffany felt about these issues. His questions weren't seeking answers but aiming to provoke, to unsettle, hoping for a slip-up that would feed into his narrative. His persistence was aggressive, showing his determination to make headlines, even if it meant disrupting an event meant for a noble cause. Tiffany Trump stood at the epicenter of the unfolding drama, her emerald gown a stark contrast to the brewing storm of confrontation. Her initial response to Neil Parker's ambush was one of measured grace. She raised her hand, not in a gesture of dismissal but one of calm authority, signaling for him to pause his onslaught of questions. "Mr. Parker, I believe the focus tonight should remain on the cause, not the politics," she said, her voice a blend of firmness and kindness. Her eyes, which had momentarily shown a flicker of surprise, now radiated a serene determination. She offered an alternative. "If you'd like to schedule an interview at a more appropriate time, I'd be happy to consider it." This was not merely a deflection but a lesson in timing and context, an invitation to engage responsibly rather than exploit. Her rebuttal was graceful, showcasing her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of public scrutiny with elegance and diplomacy. The tension in the room was now almost tangible, like a physical force pressing down on the attendees. The earlier sounds of laughter and clinking glasses were replaced by a silence that felt heavy, expectant. Every eye in the room was drawn to the confrontation, the air charged with an electricity born from anticipation. Neil's refusal to acknowledge the sanctity of the event's purpose only heightened the unease. The guests, once engaged in their own conversations, now stood as silent witnesses to this unexpected clash, their expressions a mix of curiosity, discomfort, and disapproval. The atmosphere had shifted from one of celebration to one of conflict, all eyes on Tiffany and Neil, waiting to see how this would unfold. The atmosphere in the Crystal Ballroom was charged with tension, the air thick with anticipation following Neil Parker's relentless questioning of Tiffany Trump. Just as the situation seemed poised to escalate, a voice, calm yet commanding, sliced through the silence. "Is there a reason you're badgering my sister at a charity event?" The voice belonged to Barron Trump, who stood at the room's entrance, his presence immediately altering the dynamic of the confrontation. At 17, Barron was an imposing figure, his height accentuated by his sharply tailored suit, giving him an air of maturity beyond his years. His steps towards Neil were measured, each one echoing through the now quiet room, signaling his intent to intervene. His entrance was more than physical. It was a declaration of familial solidarity, a reminder that in the Trump family they looked out for one another. The crowd turned, captivated by this unexpected defender, their attention shifting from the confrontation to this young man who carried himself with an unusual blend of youth and wisdom. Barron's challenge was direct and pointed, his eyes locked on Neil Parker as he approached. "I asked you a question," he reiterated, his voice steady and firm, demanding an explanation. "Why are you badgering my sister at an event meant to help kids?" His query wasn't just to Neil, but to everyone in the room, questioning the morality and timing of such an ambush. Barron's stance was one of calm defiance, his posture upright, his expression composed yet intense. This wasn't just about defending Tiffany, it was about defending the sanctity of the event, the cause it supported, and the respect due in such a setting. His words carried a weight of reason, compelling those around him to reflect on the ethics of journalism versus the pursuit of sensationalism. Neil, visibly taken aback by Barron's intervention, scrambled to regain his footing. "I'm just doing my job," he managed to say, a defense that sounded weak in the face of Barron's composure. His attempt to justify his actions by referencing public interest fell flat. "The public has questions, and Miss Trump here is in a unique position to answer them," Neil continued, his tone defensive, a stark contrast to his earlier confidence. His smirk was gone, replaced by a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes, showing his discomfort at being challenged in this manner. Neil was not used to being questioned about his methods, especially not by someone he underestimated due to age. Barron Trump, standing in the midst of the opulent Crystal Ballroom, took a moment to gather the room's attention before continuing his discourse with Neil Parker. His voice was steady, embodying a maturity that belied his age. "Your job?" he echoed, his tone not accusatory but contemplative, as if he were pondering the very essence of journalism. "Funny, I thought journalists were supposed to report the truth, not twist it to fit whatever narrative gets the most clicks." His words were a direct critique of the media's role, especially in an era where sensationalism often trumped substance. He spoke with an eloquence that caught everyone off guard, his critique not just aimed at Neil but at the broader media landscape. "Accountability," Barron continued, "is earned through integrity, not ambush tactics. If you were serious about your role, you'd respect people's time and place." His words were a lesson in ethical journalism, emphasizing the need for respect, context, and genuine inquiry over the pursuit of momentary headlines. His stance was not just about defending his sister, but about defending a principle, a call to elevate the standards of media interaction. The crowd's reaction was like a wave slowly building momentum. Initially, there was a hush, a collective breath held in anticipation of how this young man would handle the seasoned journalist. But as Barron's words sunk in, the room began to buzz with murmurs of agreement. Nods of approval spread like a silent applause across the room. Laughter, not mocking but appreciative, rippled through the attendees, reflecting a shared sentiment of respect for Barron's stance. His eloquence and the truth he spoke resonated with everyone present, turning the atmosphere from one of confrontation to one of contemplation. The guests felt a shift, a collective understanding that this was not just about a family under scrutiny, but about the values that should guide public discourse. The room was united, not just in support of Barron's defense, but in a newfound appreciation for the dignity he brought to the situation. The tension in the Crystal Ballroom had reached a crescendo, the air thick with anticipation and the quiet murmurs of the gathered crowd. Barron Trump, standing tall and composed, seized the moment to deliver his final critique. He leaned slightly forward, a subtle shift that commanded the room's attention. "Since you're so eager for the spotlight," he began, his voice resonant, carrying the weight of his conviction, "let's turn this into a teaching moment." His words were not shouted but spoke with an authority that silenced the room. "You say you're here to hold people accountable, so let's start with you. What accountability do you have to the truth, to respect, to the people in this room who came here to support a cause bigger than themselves?" Each question was like a precision strike, aimed at the heart of Neil Parker's journalistic integrity. Barron's gaze was unwavering, his expression one of calm intensity, making it clear he was not just defending his sister but the very ethos of the evening. "Accountability isn't a weapon you wield against others to boost your profile. It's a standard you set for yourself, and tonight you failed to meet it," he concluded, his words echoing through the silence, a final blow that left no room for rebuttal. The applause that followed was not just for his eloquence, but for the profound moral lesson he had imparted. The impact of Barron's words was immediate and visible. Neil Parker's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and frustration, his earlier confidence shattered by the young man's articulate defense. He attempted to muster a response, but Barron's raised hand, a gesture of finality, stopped him in his tracks. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of judgment from the room. Neil's retreat was both literal and metaphorical. He turned away from Barron, his steps echoing a defeat he hadn't anticipated. As he moved through the crowd, the whispers and disapproving glances followed him, his exit a stark contrast to his confident arrival. This was more than just leaving a room. It was a retreat from the moral high ground Barron had claimed. The crowd's reaction was a mix of relief and collective approval, their murmurs of support for Barron now overt, marking Neil's departure as not just an end to the confrontation, but a moment of collective condemnation of his tactics. After the tension of the confrontation dissipated with Neil Parker's retreat, the focus of the evening shifted back to the siblings, Tiffany and Barron Trump. The opulent setting of the crystal ballroom seemed to breathe again, the chandeliers casting a warm glow over the scene. Tiffany, her green gown still a beacon of calm amidst the chaos, turned to her younger brother with a look that was both grateful and reflective. She reached out, her hand finding Barron's, and squeezed it gently, a silent thank you for his unexpected but pivotal intervention. "You didn't have to do all that, you know," she whispered, her voice barely above the din of resumed conversations, yet carrying the weight of her emotions. Barron, with a modesty that belied his recent display of maturity, responded with a simple, "I couldn't just stand by and let him corner you like that. Family takes care of family." His words were not just about the physical defense, but a testament to the emotional and moral support that defines their familial bond. This moment was deeply private in its public setting, a reminder that amidst the scrutiny and the spotlight, their relationship was their anchor. It was a subtle yet profound demonstration of how family solidarity can be a source of strength and dignity, transcending the pressures of public life. The incident at the gala quickly transcended the boundaries of the event, spreading through social media at an astonishing pace. Attendees, now with their phones out, shared videos, photos, and detailed accounts of what had transpired. Clips of Barron's eloquent defense of his sister against Neil's ambush went viral, capturing the imagination of an online audience far beyond the room's attendees. Hashtags like Barron Trump or Family First and Media Ethics began trending, sparking a wildfire of discussions on platforms like X, Instagram, and TikTok. The narrative wasn't just about the confrontation, it was about the values it represented: integrity, loyalty, and the unexpected wisdom of youth. People from all walks of life commented, shared, and debated, some praising Barron's composure under pressure, others reflecting on the ethics of journalism. The story became a cultural moment, one that highlighted the power of standing up for what's right with dignity, prompting a broader conversation about how public figures are treated and the responsibilities of media in that interaction. The incident at the charity gala involving Barron Trump's defense of his sister against Neil Parker's ambush became a focal point for media introspection on a scale that was both immediate and profound. In the days following the event, media outlets across the spectrum, from traditional news networks to digital publications and social media influencers, engaged in a deep dive into what this confrontation signified for journalism, privacy, and public life. Morning talk shows such as Good Morning America and The Today Show dedicated segments to dissecting the event, inviting media ethics experts, journalists, and even psychologists to discuss the implications. They explored questions like, where do we draw the line between public interest and personal privacy? And is ambush journalism ethical, even if it uncovers truth? Opinion columns in newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post reflected on the responsibilities of journalists in the age of digital media, where the pressure to generate clicks can often overshadow the need for thoughtful journalism. These pieces often praise Barron for his composure and eloquence, framing his intervention as a spontaneous lesson in media ethics delivered by someone outside the usual journalistic circles. Some columnists even suggested that this moment could serve as a turning point, encouraging journalists to reconsider their methods, particularly when dealing with public figures in non-political or charitable contexts. Online, the discourse was even more dynamic. Social media threads, YouTube analyses, and podcast episodes dissected every aspect of the event, from the ethics of Neil Parker's approach to the broader implications for how media should operate. There was a notable shift in some circles towards advocating for more respectful and considered journalism, with calls for media outlets to adopt clearer ethical guidelines regarding the treatment of individuals at personal or charity events. This reflection wasn't just about one incident, but served as a catalyst for broader discussions on the balance between accountability and respect, the role of the media in shaping public discourse, and the need for journalists to act as guardians of truth rather than just purveyors of sensationalism. The confrontation with Neil Parker had momentarily overshadowed the charity gala's true essence, but as the echoes of their exchange faded into the background, Tiffany and Barron Trump turned their attention once again to the event's heart, supporting underprivileged children's education. The grandeur of the Crystal Ballroom, with its glittering chandeliers and gold-draped tables, seemed to refocus its light on the noble cause at hand. Tiffany, her emerald gown now a symbol of hope rather than just elegance, moved with purpose among the guests, her conversation filled with the passion for education's transformative power. Barron, standing tall beside her, spoke with a conviction that resonated with everyone around him, sharing tales of resilience and success from those the charity had previously helped. They weren't just there to be seen, they were there to make a difference. As they engaged in the auction, their laughter and encouragement were infectious, pulling the evening back from the brink of controversy to its intended celebration of generosity and compassion. Donors responded, opening their hearts and wallets, moved not by the earlier drama but by the clear dedication of the siblings. The night ended with an impressive fundraising total, a clear testament to the evening's real success, not in handling public scrutiny but in advancing a cause that promised brighter futures for countless children. In the quiet of their car ride home, the city's lights painting streaks of color across the night, Tiffany and Barron delved into a conversation that encapsulated the night's profound teachings. "You know, what you did tonight wasn't just about me," Tiffany began, her voice a blend of gratitude and insight. "It was about showing everyone that even when the world feels unfair, you can face it with grace and strength." Her words were not merely about the confrontation, but about a philosophy of living where integrity and family loyalty are paramount. Barron, with his humble demeanor, acknowledged his actions were guided by a duty to protect his sister and uphold the values they cherished. Their exchange in the car was more than just a debrief. It was a moment of profound connection, reflecting on how their actions could inspire others. This incident was a lesson in standing up for justice, not with aggression or for personal gain, but with dignity, truth, and a commitment to the greater good. The story of the gala would be remembered not for the clash, but for the lessons in humanity, media ethics, and the enduring strength of family bonds. It was a reminder that in our public and private lives, we all have the opportunity to choose paths that reflect our values, inspire change, and demonstrate the power of standing for what's right. As the narrative of the night at the gala drew to a close, an invitation was extended to the viewers watching or reading about this story. If you found this account of the evening both enlightening and thought-provoking, we encourage you to like this video, share it with someone who might need this reminder of integrity and family, and subscribe to our channel for more stories where courage, compassion, and truth intersect with our modern world. The voice was warm, inviting, not just asking for engagement but offering a call to action. But before you go, we want to leave you with a question. When faced with a situation where you see injustice or unfairness, will you choose to stand up, even if it's not easy? How can you apply the lessons of grace, strength, and family support in your own life? This question wasn't rhetorical. It was a prompt for introspection, encouraging viewers to reflect on their own lives and choices. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below or through direct messages. Your stories, your reflections, they matter. Together, let's keep this conversation going because every one of us has the potential to make a difference, just like Barron and Tiffany did tonight. The screen then transitioned to a montage of the evening's highlights, a visual reminder of the night's lessons, ending with a simple yet powerful message: be the change you wish to see.